Hey, we're going on a side quest. So recently, I saw a video called Why is Chris Broad Attacking My YouTube Channel? And I thought it was interesting because, for starters, I obviously cover kerfuffles on YouTube, so this is a possible conversation topic. But two, I actually know who Chris Broad is. Chris Broad is the man behind the channel Abroad in Japan. He has been living in Japan for nigh on a decade now and has been documenting his life there and documenting the country in general. He talks about everything from cheap meals you can have if you choose to visit Japan, all the way to how pachinko machines and gambling have negatively impacted Japanese society. He makes some really good content, and I would totally recommend his channel. So obviously, I was curious why this guy, who seems like a nice dude who makes high-quality videos, why this guy is attacking this YouTube channel. So I checked out the video, and the woman behind it, she has some interesting claims. Chris Broad is a jealous, envious man who has watched her channel grow from afar. He's territorial and wants to keep Japan to himself. In fact, Chris Broad cannot be trusted because he works for the Japanese government, whereas this woman, she's trying to expose the dark side of Japan, which Chris Broad cannot allow to happen. He is harassing her for no reason, a malicious and horrible lying. It's a lot. The video is made by a woman named Orientalist Pearl, and we're not going to talk about the name, okay? Let's do that later, okay? Hold my hand for now, we'll get there. Look, the point is, Pearl here got in a little bit of a kerfuffle with Chris. She actually makes very similar content to him, or at least they're in the same subgenre of YouTube. She just takes a more casual approach to it. However, her more casual approach has led to misinformation and even generalizations, harmful generalizations about Japanese society, something that Chris Broad was ready to criticize her for. And let's just say, she did not take that criticism well. This rabbit hole goes deep, guys. We're talking about more than just a scuff between two YouTubers. Oriental Pearl has a lot more problems than just her little meltdown. Her content is emblematic of something a lot worse. So, without further ado, guys, what the hell happened?
I was accused of painting Japan as a utopia. I was accused of excluding her from my friendship group, somebody I've never met, never spoken to.
Chris, you're being a cunt. Stop it. Stop. There's enough Japan to go around.
Hey, brain fart moment. I sometimes say in this video that her channel is called Orientalist Pearl. It's Oriental Pearl. That's on me. Sometimes I'm a stupid, dumb idiot. I'm sorry. So, I know not everyone watches foreigner living in Japan content, so who the hell is Orientalist Pearl? Well, she is a pretty big YouTuber in her own right. She's accumulated almost 1.5 million subscribers and has large followings on platforms like Instagram and TikTok as well, where she puts out her content as shorts, which is relevant for later. She has grown a very respectable audience. Not as big as Chris Broad's, but still, she is certainly a massive YouTuber with a lot of reach. And, okay, look, at this point, you guys have seen the name enough. I think it's time that we pretty much have to address it. If you're unaware, Oriental or Orientalist is a term with a very complicated history. It's a term used to refer to people in Asia, and while it seems harmless enough, unfortunately it does have a history of being connected with racist anti-Asian sentiments to push Asians out of the West, and therefore it is considered an outdated term here in the West that people have been trying to remove from, for example, legal terminology. Now, I do want to clarify that this term is used occasionally in places like China or Japan or the Philippines on some tourist traps. A couple of towers have the word Orientalist stuck on it. I do acknowledge that. However, I don't think a handful of Asian people using the term Oriental on a couple of buildings completely erases the history of that term. There is a reason why it is considered widely outdated. And Pearl, while she does live in Japan, she is from the West. I do think it's weird that she chose a highly controversial and complicated term for the main thing on her brand. Like, it's her name, for God's sakes. God, it's certainly a choice. But frankly, there are bigger fish to fry. The word Oriental is far from the worst thing about Pearl, believe it or not. So what's her content like? Well, her content is certainly more casual than Chris's content. She's mainly a vlogger who goes around and interviews people in Japan. That's the bulk of a lot of her videos. She interviews Americans, native Japanese people, talking about why, for example, people from America choose to immigrate in Japan, or foreigners' experience in Japan, or how Japanese people feel about foreigners, stuff like that. Have you seen the alpha male street interview videos?
What's something that you really hate about a guy?
When I'm trying to go to the bathroom on 6th Street and they're like, hey, can I ask you a question?
Well, yeah, fuck.
Yeah. It's a lot like that. She does a lot of that. I would not exactly call this in-depth research. It's more just for entertainment's sake, which there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Some content is meant to inform. Some content is meant to entertain.
I didn't date much in America because none of the women there were at all the women I tried to look for. So
why not?
Oh, I'm not attracted to Mexican chicks. I'm sorry.
Her most popular videos, though, I do think they're interesting. She goes out and basically confronts Japanese people who talk in Japanese behind her back, shocking them with her skills at speaking Japanese. Like, that is a lot of her most popular videos. She opens up the matrix and reveals this whole new world by speaking Japanese to Japanese people, because believe it or not, this might be shocking, but yeah, it's easier to communicate with people in Japan if you speak Japanese. Clearly, we're breaking through the matrix with this one, boys.
中国美女穿和服非常好看，真的很漂亮。中文好厉害，谢谢。
I want to clarify a couple things. One, she's not speaking Japanese in that particular clip. She's speaking Cantonese and Mandarin. But beyond that, I also want to clarify that this is a cool thing. Like, it's really awesome that she can speak all these languages. This is clearly a skill that she's worked hard to cultivate, and I really respect her for that. I wish I could do this. I just think that the framing of the content that's getting millions, 40 million plus views, and making her a lot of money, the framing of the content is... it's interesting. Doesn't seem overly harmful on the surface, at least. But what got Chris Broad's attention, and what started this whole controversy, was a video that she made 2 weeks ago, as of recording this video, called What is Happening to Japan?, with a thumbnail showing off trash and graffiti in the streets.
This isn't London, it's not New York. This is actually Tokyo, Japan. As a person who has been living here for many years, I've seen a lot of changes.
The video primarily covers the Kabukicho district, which, if you know anything about Japan or Tokyo, you know what the Kabukicho district is. It is a very, very famous red light and nightlife district that, yeah, has street trash and graffiti there. Obviously, it would be like if you went to downtown LA or like Hyde Street in San Francisco and then acted shocked that there's trash there. Like guys, yes, these places have been famous for having trash in the streets for a while. I'm not trying to say that's not a problem, but the framing of this video is acting like this is a brand new thing in Japan. Like no, it's not. Kabukicho has been like this. It's famously been like this. I also find it quite distasteful how she takes her camera and shoves it in the face of homeless people in the street who probably really don't want that attention on them. They're just minding their own business. And yeah, Kabukicho and that district as a whole does have a higher concentration of homeless people living there. Though, and she doesn't really seem to address this heavily in her video, that homeless population has, objectively speaking, been going down over the past few years. So focusing on this like it's a big problem that's degrading Japanese society, it's weird as a choice. And people in Japan were ready to point this out in her comment section. As soon as the video released, I saw pushback from some of the top comments. I have been living in Japan for 30 years now. I don't know if Japan is worse or not. I don't feel it. Shibuya and Shinjuku have always been dirty places. 30 years ago, Shinjuku was much worse, with homeless people everywhere. That got 3,000 likes. That's not nothing. And obviously that's just one comment, but there are many, many like that. But this video would only get more negative attention when another Japanese resident decided to chime in. That's right, Chris Broad. He had a lot to say on his Facebook account about this video. The sensationalist Japanese content is getting out of hand. A wall with some graffiti on it does not mean Japan is at an end. There was graffiti in Shibuya 10 years ago, there's graffiti in Shibuya now. But unfortunately, positively does not drive clicks. I was in Kabukicho the other day, and it was absurdly busy. There was certainly more rubbish than usual. Then I realized it was a 3-day weekend and far busier than the average weekend. Shame. It was a missed opportunity to point my camera at the rubbish and make a video decrying the end of Japan. Now stop reading this. Every minute online is time better spent rummaging around Asia's biggest red light district with a GoPro looking for dirt. There's some serious ad revenue to be made, folks. And yeah, I agree with him in this post 100%. It's weird to claim that a country is dying or in degradation just because you saw some graffiti and street trash in a place that's famous for having those things. Like, come on, man. This does not speak to the whole of Japanese society and is a wide and harmful generalization. Now, look, Pearl, she makes videos like this all the time, and I'm sure this is not the first time she's gotten pushback on it, but instead of just moving on with her life and making more of her slop videos, Pearl decided to directly respond to Chris Broad and demand that he delete his criticism. I'd appreciate it if you took this post down. It only leads to creator-on-creator harassment. It's fine to have different opinions on things, Chris, but I've lived in Asia as long as you, and I'm allowed to have an opinion on Japan. Also, why does it matter if I film this video on a GoPro? I don't have a film crew like you. This isn't creator-on-creator harassment. You made sweeping generalizations about Japan based on a handful of streets to several 100,000 people. And it's not the first time you've done this. If you're not willing to have your public opinion scrutinized, then don't make them public for cheap views. Whew. A very base response. Look, this seems like another straightforward case of a creator making an L video and not being able to take criticism of the L video. The story should end here, but of course, it does not, because Oriental Pearl, God, this name is... Pearl decided to make a full video response. And yeah, it's certainly something. Hey, do you want me to be a part of your life wherever you go? Well, now you can have me, because we have stickers now. If you want to have either me or my D&D characters on your water bottle or your laptop, maybe you want our good mascot, the Crispy Rat, to follow you around everywhere. Well, now you can. Stickers are now available on the Crispy's Tavern shop. Remember that buying stuff like this helps to really support the channel, so I always appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Within mere hours, she already had this full response video made, which goes to show the sheer amount of effort that's put into every single piece of content that Pearl makes.
Something happened and I want to defend myself, and I hope it makes me feel a little better, and I hope it, that you guys...
This video was already stupid at baseline, because why is she responding to this? She shouldn't have demanded that Chris take down his post in the first place, but making a full video response, come on, man. It's not like abroad in Japan is gonna chase her for all time. She could go on making her slop videos while he goes on making his videos. They go in separate directions, and that's the end of the story. But by making a full response video, she was just fanning the flames and inviting more hate to her channel. This video has almost universally negative reception aside from her die-hard audience. So how bad was the video really? What did she say? Well, for starters, she almost opens the video by saying that she is open to criticism of her content.
And when you cover topics like this, it's okay for people to disagree, but it's not okay to lash out.
Which is crazy. Why would you say that? You're clearly not open to criticism. You demanded that Chris delete his post. That's not being open to criticism, that is trying to censor it. What are you doing? But beyond that, she tries to defend her content by focusing on very surface level parts of Chris's criticism. For example, the GoPro comment he made at the very, 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 very end of his post. Clearly just a sarcastic little jab, but she treats it like it's one of his primary arguments. She goes on and on and on about how she loves her GoPro and her GoPro is awesome.
And by the way, what's wrong with the GoPro? This is an amazing camera. This camera has changed my life. You know, when I was getting my master's...
Dude, that's not the main point that Chris was making. Chris was talking about you making sweeping, harmful generalizations about Japan and your content being sensationalist. Like, yeah, those are mean criticisms, but they're not hard criticisms to miss. Like, that's what he was talking about. Focusing on his GoPro comment at the very end is a really odd choice. She also tries to defend her content by acting like she's just a little YouTuber in comparison to Chris. Like, he's this massive channel with a whole film crew. She's just one lady doing her best, which, come on. You have almost 1.5 million subscribers. Chris has more. Chris has a lot more. But that doesn't mean that you're a small channel by any means. You don't get to claim harassment just because he has more subscribers. And you don't get to shirk responsibility by claiming you're a small channel. You're not. When you get to this level, you do have a responsibility. Her saying this only makes her look worse. Again, it's just that surface level analysis. She sees, oh, Chris has more subscribers than me. Therefore, he's a big creator harassing a small creator. And that's the argument that she decides to make. But when you look even a little bit deeper into it, you would see why that argument does not work at all, just like her surface level reading of Kabukicho in the video that was criticized by Chris. At least she's consistent. But her response gets so much worse when she starts talking about Chris himself.
I think Abroad in Japan is losing the plot here, with viewers as well.
She claims that Chris is this grumpy, mean gatekeeper who's jealous of her channel. She claims this based on YouTube's analytics and the similar channels page, which... Dude, that's not how the YouTube analytics page works in any way at all. She's looking at this part of YouTube analytics, which shows channels that your audience also watches. And yeah, shocker, people who watch foreigner and Japan content also watch the biggest creator in that space. Yes, Pearl, you do have crossover with Chris Broad. That doesn't mean that he's losing subscribers or losing viewers because of you. This isn't a zero-sum game. Her claiming that is absolutely unhinged. Like, this is my version of that page. I am not killing Critical Role with my YouTube channel just because we have audience crossover. That is an insane way to look at very basic analytics.
The internet is trying to tell Chris something. Then maybe you're being a grumpy bumpy.
She also claims that Chris focuses on irrelevant Twitch streamers who don't matter to Japan or the world at large, which, if you don't know what she's talking about, Chris has made videos that got pretty popular that talk about streamers and YouTubers who go to Japan to quite frankly, harass Japanese citizens and be annoying for views. It is a problem, and Chris has talked about this a lot because while I don't think it affects global geopolitics or whatever, it is irritating. It does annoy the citizens that these people are harassing, and furthermore, it builds harmful messages for the viewers on the domestic end. A lot of the people who watch this content therefore think that this kind of behavior is okay, that it's funny. It builds a new generation of obnoxious assholes, and also, on top of being harmful to the people that are getting harassed, it could also be harmful to the harassers. If you're unaware, Vitaly tried doing this kind of content, not in Japan, but in the Philippines. Do you know what happened to him? He was arrested for vexation and is now in a detention camp. And if you know anything about the detention camps in the Philippines, you know that's not a joke. Frankly, I think someone like Chris Broad, a massive channel with millions of subscribers, I think it's worthwhile for him to call out this kind of content. It's harmful for everyone involved and needs to stop. I do not know why Pearl would jump to defend these creators indirectly by saying that Chris shouldn't be talking about them. It is a really weird hill for her to die on. But hey, her content where she shoves cameras in the faces of homeless people is like 2 steps away from it, so, you know, maybe I shouldn't expect anything more from her. She also claims that Chris is essentially running like propaganda for the prefectural governments of Japan.
The kind of sponsored content that makes a lot of money is the kind of content that Chris makes, doing a topic with the Prefectural Tourist Bureau, whatever it's called. And I think this is also problematic because it gives people a very romanticized version of what this country is, almost like a utopia.
Many of his most popular videos are not positive at all. Her framing Chris like this, it's a really weird choice to make. But the most important thing in this response is how she contrasts herself with Chris. She's claiming that Chris is the real sensationalist. He's trying to make Japan look better than it is, whereas she's talking about the truth, the dark side of Japan that people do not want to discuss, that people do not want to talk about. And look, I don't inherently hate the idea, but I think it's well worth looking back at her content and analyzing how well she does this. Maybe Chris is overreacting. Maybe Pearl is actually telling the truth about her content. She's just revealing what Japan is really like. Yeah, no, that's not what happens. I do want to point out before we move on that Chris has released his own video covering Orientalist Pearl's content, and there is some crossover with some of the stuff I'm going to be saying in this video. Please understand, that video released as I was filming this. I took a break from filming this to just watch it to see what crossed over so I could give Chris proper credit. I do recommend you watch his video, and I will do my best to call out when we tread over certain ground. We do have different perspectives, and I do recommend that you watch both because obviously Chris is a content creator who's really good at his job. In any case, let's talk about Pearl's content, starting with the video that began all of this crap, because I think it represents a lot of what's wrong with her channel. Surface level. We mentioned that phrase a lot earlier, but it applies to like everything she does. Look, criticizing the dark parts of a country or a society, it takes research. There are legitimate problems with Japanese society, government, culture, all worth pointing out. However, they take in-depth research. They take time. You can't just go outside with a camera, film some homeless people, and call it a day. Even if you want to talk about homelessness. Like, Pearl does a really bad job at interrogating why this is happening, what the government has done about it, and why these people are living in the state that they are living in. She is mostly going out and vlogging their lifestyles, which that's not inherently bad. It's interesting content, but to claim that she's exposing some dark part of Japan, I mean, not really. These are just more street interviews. It's more of her shtick. And look, as someone who went to J school and like did street interviews for class, I can tell you, they have their place in journalism, but not as research. They are flavor. They're B-roll that you sprinkle on top of your background research that make up the bulk of your information. Pearl claims to do that research. In her response video, she claims she does hours upon hours upon hours of research, but like...
2 years ago, I started researching into the Toyoko kids problem and the standing woman problems. It's a lot more research in the background than just flipping out a GoPro.
I don't see it. She doesn't put any sources in her video. She doesn't cite any articles. There's no links in the description. If she does background research, she's not crediting it, which frankly, this is my opinion, but I think that's malpractice. That's not the opinion of every journalist, but that's my opinion. I think you should credit your background research, and that's relevant stuff for your readers to know about. And Pearl, she does not bother to do that for whatever reason. Maybe because she's not doing that research at all. She's taking the easy road because you can't pump out content if you're doing in-depth research about these topics. And frankly, when she goes for topics beyond homelessness, I mean, she doesn't even put in that much effort. In the What's Happening to Japan video, she just loosely brings up depopulation.
As everybody knows, Japan is facing a population crisis. There's more old people now than young people. And I thought this was one of those over 9 million abandoned houses in the country.
She doesn't go in depth about anything. She brushes on the surface level and then moves on. Because when she's talking about the dark side of Japan, she's not talking about the serious stuff. Population collapse, gambling problems, inflated housing, xenophobic sentiments. No, none of that. She's just talking about how dirty the streets are, how there's graffiti, how there's homeless people everywhere. Surface level stuff to attract surface level outrage. Nearly forgot about this, but it makes the previous bit so much worse. You know this sensationalist content that this lady makes? Yeah, on top of blatantly over-exaggerating, she also just will straight up lie. I noticed that in the thumbnail, some of the graffiti is identical. Like it's copy-pasted, which is just a little suspicious. I wasn't gonna point anything out until Chris Brown actually visited the street corner where she took that picture.
I quickly noticed a few interesting differences between my original ungraded photos and the thumbnail of her video.
She photoshopped in more graffiti. And that brings me to my next huge problem with Orientalist Pearl's content. And that is that this sort of barely researched rage bait, it can lead to some really, really bad stuff, such as exploitation from political malefactors. For example, remember Colonel Otaku Gatekeeper? He was one of the first side quests we ever went on this YouTube channel. And yup, we're bringing him back for this one. If you're unaware, he is a user on Twitter who rants about the woke in video games and movies. He claims to be a Japanese citizen when he's actually just like a basement dweller in the UK. He faked his entire life in Japan, and generally speaking, his entire existence is some really cringe stuff. But as a fake Japanese citizen, he has a lot of opinions about street litter in Japan and how dirty immigrants are ruining and destroying the country. Sound familiar? Look, Pearl is not saying the exact same stuff as him. She gets close, but she doesn't say the exact same stuff.
The graffiti or foreign immigrant problem.
But Pearl's videos, where she takes out context, where she doesn't include research, where she just focuses on the surface level, those videos and the footage within is easily exploited by these kind of malefactors to promote racist, xenophobic, alt-right sentiments, even if it's not Pearl's intention. This happens a lot with rage bait on YouTube. When you make careless content, people can use it for their own means because you're not doing the research to clarify and to inform. Without context, misinformation can thrive. And as Chris Broad points out in his own video, if you go down to Pearl's comment section, you see plenty of that.
And if you look at the comment sections, particularly on those shorts, you will see the most vile, hateful, angry comments that you can find. A creator isn't responsible for what people comment on their content, but subtle choices, the way the images and clips are cut and edited together, with the message that goes with it, can have a very powerful effect.
It's actually worse in her short form content because she just puts the footage up. She's not giving any context at all, and it leads to these sentiments being fostered all the more. Chris talks way more about the problems with short form content in his video, and I agree with everything he says. He does a really great job. Again, totally recommend you check it out. But yeah, you can see the harm that that content does. Even if it's not Pearl's intention, it is the result. And I do think that's well worth pointing out because these sort of sentiments are allowed to run rampant in her comment sections. I do understand that Pearl is not a journalist, but if you want to cover serious topics, you need to treat them seriously. This surface level crap doesn't do it. Her whole channel is B-roll. That's all it is. Her whole channel is B-roll. The extra stuff that I would put in a news package. Not the main script. Just the extras. That's all that she makes. And then she claims that she's exposing the dark secrets of Japan. It is deeply, deeply frustrating. If Pearl really wants to do this, then frankly, she's doing a bad job. And I really hope that after Chris's video, she will improve her content. But given her hesitance to accept criticism, I doubt that. But frankly, there's another reason why she won't improve, and that's because she doesn't need to. The worst part about all this, it feels like it doesn't matter because her methods, they're what work on YouTube. They're popular, even if Orientalist Pearl somehow gets taken down by this whole controversy, which I doubt. I'm pretty sure she's gonna move on just fine. But even if she does get taken down, there are millions of other people doing the exact same thing, not just in Japan, but everywhere, across every topic. This sort of stuff works. I mean, you see it on this channel. Hell, you see it on Chris Broad's channel. He talks about this in his video, but yeah, clickbait is a part of our business. We both engage in it. Now, we do try to not cross that line into sensationalism, into lies. I don't want to lie to you like Orientalist Pearl does. But frankly, her BSing, it works. Her sensationalism, it works. The misinformation, it works. She got caught this one time, but there's 1,000 people doing the exact same thing. And that's why this is important. All right, in this era, where we are more vulnerable than ever to misinformation, especially in short form content, it's important to call out when someone is blatantly lying to your face, when somebody is exploiting out of context information for their own means, because it is everywhere. Look, we need to encourage more critical thinking and literacy when it comes to media. I talk about this all the time, but here we see it in a much more serious content. This is a person making sweeping generalizations about an entire freaking country to the tune of millions upon millions of views, spreading harmful anti-immigrant messaging that spreads across the world. This isn't just about Japan. Her content is watched by people in the West who take those same sentiments and apply it here. It's awful, and I think it's well worth calling out. I'm grateful that Chris Broad brought this to my attention. I'm grateful that he is on the side of critical thinking and media literacy, because dang it, we need more people fighting for it. And it's not just content creators like Chris, it's people like you too. But in any case, that's my video on Orientalist Pearl. God, that name is still something wild. If you guys enjoyed it, then you might enjoy this video on Colonel Otaku Gatekeeper. This is yet another grifter who takes advantage of Japan for his own means, linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content when it comes out. And finally, if you want to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video and were loyal to the tavern, then leave the comment what she named again to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Oh, hey, by the way, if you want to help to make all this content possible, then please do either buy our merch or consider subscribing on Patreon. It's your support that makes these videos even better. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, support. I will see you all next time. Farewell. Hey, we're going outside. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Here we go. Head in frame.